Welcome to Leaping Larry's Revolutionary Reading Theatre.
All right, comrades, so today we're going to be reading, of course, continuing on rather, a read of Kwame Nkrumah, Neocolonialism, the Final Stage of Imperialism. And that emote. That is that emote, isn't it? That's just gonna be a permanent fixture, even though I've updated the thing. The spin is for the news, Sebs. The spin is for the news. This is the reading where I sit in the big chair and I have my pipe and I go, "Welcome to the Revolutionary Reading Theater." Right? It's that part of the show now. You know. By the way, did you know that tomorrow I'm going to be on Decolonized Buffalo podcast? At about 1 o'clock p.m. my time. I'm going to be on Decolonized Buffalo podcast. Okay, so you'll demand that from now on always. So I'm just going to have all these. I'm going to be like one of those streamers that like the people just pay the things to and I do this thing. I'm not from Buffalo. I'm going to be on Decolonized Buffalo podcast. At 1 o'clock p.m. my time. That's what? Noon Eastern Standard Time. But don't they just talk about Buffalo? Though. No. No, they don't. They talk about native issues everywhere. They talk about decolonization. There's all kinds of great talks from Decolonized Buffalo. The name isn't the name is the animal Buffalo says. The animal, not the place. I can't tell if you're teasing me or what. My autistic brain sometimes has trouble discerning between jokes. Yeah, not Buffalo, Buffalo, Sebs. It's not Buffalo, it's Buffalo. Okay? Don't you know the difference between Buffalo and Buffalo? You can be at Buffalo on the Buffalo. Buffalo, my favorite kind. I'll let you forever wonder what I meant. Well, thanks, Sebs. That's gonna be good. I won't be able to sleep tonight. Perfect. Thanks for that. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. All right. That's enough distracting me. I'm supposed to be reading now. Well, I'm vegan, so I don't eat buffalo. Good. I'll eat the buffalo for you. You have salsa after the salsa. First, you have salsa, then you have salsa. I want salsa, not salsa. Okay. Jesus Christ. Are we ready now? I think we're ready, right? Neocolonialism by Kwame Nkrumah, 1965. Monopoly Capitalism and the American Dollar. The end of empire has been accompanied by a flourishing of other means of subjugation. The British Empire has become the Commonwealth, but the proceeds from the exploitation of British imperialism are increasing. Profits at British tin companies have ranged as high as 400%. The latest dividends to British diamond shareholders are close to 350%. On one occasion, Mr. Nehru declared that British profits from independent India had more than doubled, and British capital investment in the country rose from Rs 2065 million in 1948 to Rs 4,460 million in 1960. Total British investments in Africa have soared to 6,500 million. The French to about 7,000 million, and American to about 1,100 million. A recent survey made plain the plunder of British monopolies. This is in the 50s, remember. It listed 9 out of 20 of British biggest monopolies as direct colonial exploiting companies. Shell, British Petroleum, British American Tobacco, Imperial Tobacco, Burma Oil, Nkrumah Copper, Rocana Corporation, Rhodesian Mines, and British South Africa, 5 of which are directly engaged in chiseling away Africa's natural resources. The others are busily increasing their trading. Their total of £221 million net profits was over half the combined net profits of the top 20 monopolies. Incredibly, the list leaves out 2 of the world's greatest combines. Those states within the state, Unilever and Imperial Chemical Industries, whose operations are based heavily on their overseas exploitations. The United African Company leads, for Unilever in Africa, about a third of the ICI, and its subsidiaries operate overseas. Sir Alec Douglas Home, former Prime Minister of Britain's Tories government, in a speech made on 20th of March 1964, sorry, this is 65 or 67, I think this is written. I don't know why I said 50s earlier. It's 67, I think. Written. Sorry. Professed himself ignorant of the meaning of neocolonialism. While Sir Alec was talking, Britain was engaged in what the press was busy describing as major crisis areas all over the world, putting down troubles, inspired and perpetrated by neocolonialism, Aden and Southern Arabia against Yemen, Borneo and Sarawak against Indonesia, Cyprus, British Guiana, maintaining law and order in Kenya, Tanganyika, Uganda, for the recently independent governments. Is this the end of imperialism? Not according to The Economist, mouthpiece of Britain's business interests, which felt compelled to comment. Quote, military bases, routes to the east, frontier skirmishing, putting down mutinies. All this has a 19th century ring, quite naturally disturbing to those who had hoped that the end of colonialism meant the end of military involvement east of Suez. The knobby truth of the matter turns out that, for the moment, Britain has as many military commitments in that area as it ever had before colonies were replaced by Commonwealth. Economist, 23rd of May, 1964. The intention is to hold back the progress of the developing countries. Thank you, Meg. where circumstances favor the establishment of ventures of a more than token industrial character. The aim is to see that they are made haltingly. The overriding objective is to induce a merely fractional increase in the industrial scope of the new nations, in order that they may continue to provide the sinews of imperialism's greater concentration of forces for the final tussle of strength within itself and against socialism. What is remarkable is that the major part of the less developed world, and here we must include the USSR, chose and is choosing the socialist road to national progress. There are, in addition, countries like India where the political system, though patterned on the bourgeois democracies of capitalism, nevertheless proclaims socialism as the socio-economic objective. The nations that have reached their present peaks by passing through the various stages of capitalism cling desperately to the system that has brought them to the heights of imperialism. Each perched perilously on a narrow summit must put up a constant battle to guard its own pinnacle. Greater intensity is infused into the struggle by the resurgence of rivals, of whom Germany and Japan are both most virile. Both of them have benefited from strong injections of American capital, and U.S. monopolies are drawing off considerable profits.
Long live the People's Revolution!
From the running that is being made by these two countries in the world competition, pointing the contradictions among the interests involved. Competing against American imperialism, German and Japanese monopolists are frequently in alliance with their USA opposites, who often put them forward in imperialism's general offensive against Africa, where open United States private investment might be regarded with more suspicion than others. Germany, moreover, is now second to the USA in the scale of so-called assistance to the developing countries. Since capitalism is the embodiment of the philosophy of self-interest, the ostensible allies of Americans' monopolists must use the position of strength into which they are being thrust to promote their own growth. The struggle for ascendancy among the imperialisms is continuous and involves a constant search for renewal of the sinews of strength. Alongside the battle for imperialist supremacy, there wages the fight against the ideological camp of socialism, into which the warring imperialists make an all-out effort to trail the developing countries as their appendages. This way, the anti-communist campaign is used to further imperialist aims. Leaders of monopoly capitalism everywhere build up in the public mind an image of a system in socio-cultural terms by which they transform it into an idealized, harmonious civilization that must be cherished at all costs. They harp upon a way of life that may be altered only to its detriment, and stress its continuity as a major principle in the fight against communism. When Harold Macmillan, as Prime Minister of Britain, told the South African Parliament that what is now on trial is much more than our military strength and our diplomatic and administrative skill, it is our way of life, unquote. He epitomized the metaphysical transmutation of economic impulses into the social philosophy. Epitomized. This in spite of his reference to winds of change blowing across Africa, he echoed the several statesmen of the West any of whom could have made the statement and, indeed, have at different times and in almost identical words. Quote, the great issue in the second half of the 20th century is whether the uncommitted peoples of Asia and Africa will swing to the east or to the west. All the powerful imperialist nations are decided that the new state shall develop along the capitalist path, the provisioners of imperialism's vital needs, source of its super profits. National liberation and the obvious advantages of socialist development for nations evolving out of the colonist domination and without the capital means for making that development are major factors determining imperialist strategy towards these nations, in both the interest of its internal struggle and the fight against socialism. Sorry. I tried to finish the sentence before it happened. Yeah, those you know the wins. You know exactly the wins, chat. We hear about them every morning on this channel. Thank you, Bama. Not enough people say bless you anymore. I prefer you're so good looking, actually. I would prefer that one, Bama. Instead of bless you, I would much prefer that. You're so good looking. Give me that instead, please. Thank you. All countries, even the most deeply involved in monopoly imperialism, have a state sector. Indeed, state involvement in private economy has become an essential part of its process. Yeah, sure. That's a that's an excusable substitution as well, Bob. It should cause no surprise, therefore, that developing countries, particularly in the view of small accumulations of local private capital, are obliged to centralize their economy. Aha! You got it, you got it. The size of the state sector and its planned expansion, however, must depend on the economic system which is chosen, capitalist or socialist. The aim of the imperialist powers in the application of their aid programs is to turn the state sector into a appendage of private capital. In view of the process that has been involved in the imperialist countries, it would be surprising if this were not so. The declared policy of the Agency for International Development, formerly International Cooperative Administration, is to employ United States assistance to aid receiving countries in such a way as will encourage the development of the private sectors of their economies. Thus, ICA will normally not be prepared to finance publicly owned industrial and extractive enterprises, although it is realized that there may be exceptions. Unquote. Development in the new countries along non capitalist lines must be frustrated in the interests of Western imperialism. A series of articles which appeared in the London Times in April 1964 outlines the pattern and made no secret of its reasons. Quote, the two great objectives of Britain's forest policy must be to prevent the non communist world from being penetrated by communism, and secondly, to prevent her own access to trade and investment in any part of the world from being barred or limited. Unquote. They couldn't make it any more clear. Naturally enough, as the articles conclude, quote, both the objects lead straight into the neo-colonial issue, the struggle for influence, commercial and political, over the non-communist countries outside Europe and North Americas. Unquote. Thus succinctly does the writer in the Times expose the true character of the ideological struggle between monopolies. Leading the ideological struggle, because she leads the inter-imperialist struggle, the USA is the world's leading imperialist power. America lays successor claims to the so-called vacua, which its retiring colonial powers are said to leave behind, as they give way to nationalist governments. Vietnam and Congo are very obvious symbols of this policy of rabid neocolonialism. They are also examples of bitter antagonisms between American and other imperialisms. According to France Observateur, the issue of 4th of June 1964, quote, the darkest accusations are made by the USA against French business circles operating in South Vietnam. American experts in Asian affairs asserts that French planters are not content with paying their mite to the South Vietnam National Liberation Front. They will even lead assistance and hide their guerrillas pursued by the government's army. Unquote. In spite of its policy of open aggression in many parts of the globe, the United States frequently poses as the anti-colonial power in its condemnation of British imperialism. The pose is thin, and the mask continually falls, even often overcritical anti-colonialist resolutions pressed by the Afro-Asian and socialist majority in the United Nations. When the United States and Britain find themselves alone, or only with France, Portugal, South Africa, and Australia voting against or abstaining. Hey Radisby, why does Chad have pretty hamsticks? Those are my cheer badges. So, I know, being extremely autistic Radisby, not only did I customize all of the, subscription tier badges, which is, of course, your kitty with your Ushanka that you have right now. But the more bits you cheer, the more your bit tier badge changes. So if you click on Bup's name, you'll see you only actually even have to cheer 1 bit, and you can actually get one. Thank you, Bup, for the 24 bits, comrade. Very much appreciate that. Yeah, so over time, comrades, I expect to have all sorts of different ones. So yeah, with 1 bit, you can get the red one. And you can actually, even if you have cheered 1,000, if you do prefer the hammer and sickle that doesn't have that yellow outline, you can revert back to that one as well. Yeah, I customized every single badge that I was
Long
able
live
to.
the People's Revolution!
Thank you, Radisby, for the 100 biddies, comrade. Very much appreciate that. Thank you, thank you. Enjoy your hamsick, friend. Now, when you customize your badges on the channel, you should have. I think that gives you 2 different ones to choose from, actually. So you could choose the outlined one, or you could choose just that pure classic red one. I know some comrades that have gone over that do like to still use the 1-bit one. Now, eventually there is the WPK bit reward as well, but I suspect it'll take us many years before anyone reaches that one. Can't remember how much it is, but it is up there a little ways. But yeah, WPK is eventually one, and then the top, which I don't know if we'll ever get to that, but the top is that symbol that's down there in the corner, the one that I made for First Nations International along with Red Falcon. That's the top of the bit tier rewards. Yeah, Bub has the fancy. Bub was always in here with those unicorn bits. Oh well, but you at least have the fancy. Look how cute you are with your badge. Aw, for Disby. You look so cute with that ham and sickle on. Look at how cute your name is now. I still say fuck Twitch. You should get more for paying half to your pimp. Yeah. No, I agree, Mag. I agree. And that's why yeah, I comrades do know that. I mean, I appreciate support no matter how it comes, but yeah, the most immediate and helpful support is always the PayPal, which actually helps me get like the diesel that I needed. I don't have that yet though, Mag. I've never set that up yet. I have that. Yeah, PayPal is the most immediate and direct way to support me, and it helped. Like I say, I get power outs like once a month at least, so they do help me make sure that I have diesel, which I sometimes need. We have done more than one diesel stream, and coming into the winter, this is going to be where the diesel fuel will be ever more needed because that's when we get power outages. Our grid is just so shitty. Ever since they sold our power company to a private interest. We just won't tell them, Radisby. We, we just won't tell them that that's possible. When I discovered there's a lot of badges to customize. When I discovered, I was like, oh shit. I was like, oh no. I was like, what am I gonna do here for all of these badges? Because, like, look, I'll show you what I did. Where is it? No points, no. Here it is. Okay. Yeah. See? See, it eventually changes to yellow, and then it changes to purple, and then it's the WPK symbol, and then it's the First Nations International symbol. There's a lot to customize though, and I was like, okay, well, I might as well get them all out of the way now. The thing that annoys me is that I can't do that. Sorry, wait, I didn't actually mean to close it. The thing that annoys me is that I can't actually do that with the other thing. Where is it? This thing. Yeah, the subscription badges. What annoys me about their subscription badges is that now I gotta wait for this next one. But I think now I've got it in a proper order. So, like, right now, what is your cat has the Ushanka? So next, your cat will be wearing Castro's hat, which I think is the one I've got. Yeah, I have Castro's hat on. And then the next hat you get after Castro is Lenin's hat. And then Stalin's hat. And then Mao's hat. And then I have to keep thinking of other hats to add to. So they may eventually, they may eventually get shifted forward. Some of these, like the Lenin, the Stalin, and the Mao hat, might get shifted forward eventually. Yeah, there you go. I customized everything. I went wild. Decolonial hat. What's funny is decolonized buffalo. I do have one here that's gonna be coming up once we unlock more of those subscriber badges. I do have this one coming up. Gotta find it. Yeah. This is one that I have coming up. This is gonna be like your 2 year subscriptions. This is gonna be up there. But this is the headdress for our leader of Mi'kmaq Nation. So that's going to be way up there. But yeah, that's eventually for the people who are here long enough, your cat will have that on. That's going to be the highest stage. Yeah. How long is that? I don't know yet. I'm thinking that's going to have to be like 2 years or something, right? But the problem is I can't actually do that until I actually unlock it, right? Because right now I'm at 1.5 years. So the next one is going to unlock on April 29th, 2024. I wonder how many badges it's even possible to get. Like, how long do they keep going? Do they go up to 5 years or what? We'll make this 2 years though when we get there. So far, I've been streaming for 6 months. So Radisby, you're like very close to being an OG comrade of the channel. Yours was what, 4 months? So yeah, you've almost been here since the beginning. You were 2 months off from the founder badge. Yeah, I got the communist 5-year plan. We're all about the 5-year plans here. That's a good little intermission. Let us finish up our Kwame Nkrumah chapter here. I'll continue. Well, rather, I'll continue on with it now. Chapter 4: Neocolonialism. Yeah, of course, of course. And I expect people, like, I want people to, make sure that the most important thing, of course, is that they can afford to sub or donate or do biddies. That's the most important thing to me, first of all. And I understand that people want to make sure that I'm going to be consistent and actually, based or whatever. It's soda primping. Look at Soda up there. I love the way she hangs her arms. All right, we'll finish this chapter, or we'll continue on with this chapter, and then we will catch up on our Gerald Horn. Not going to let Gerald Horn leave us behind on the video appearances or the radio appearances. In spite of the policy of open aggression in many parts of the globe, the United States frequently poses as the anti-colonial power. Well, we already read that part. I'll keep going. In the condemnation of British imperialism, the pose is thin and the mask continually falls, even often overcritical anti-colonialist resolutions pressed by the Afro-Asian and socialist majority in the United Nations. When the United States and Britain find themselves alone, or only with France, Portugal, and South Africa and Australia voting against or abstaining. That quote's from British Colonial Policy and Neocolonialist Rivalries. R. Palm Dutt, International Affairs, Moscow, August 1964. My favorite nation, Bup. Actually, my least favorite. I mean, they're important, but anyway, I digress. I very much digress. In the last 9 years of American investments on the continent have trebled, growing at a faster rate than any other area. In 1961 alone, American monopolies profited by some $11.2 million pounds rather, which they took out of Africa. Hard to find like an in-between. It's right at the rising tide of nationalism in the colonial territories was remarked by a shrewder operators of United States financial capital as America's opportunity to insinuate itself into what were the jealously guarded preserves of rival imperialisms. anti-imperialist stirrings had begun to show themselves in Asia and Africa before the outbreak of the last World War. As hostilities progressed, America came out more and more openly for the ending of colonial rule. Press and other public propaganda harked back to America's own fight against colonialism. The remembrance was linked in people's mind with the budding nationalist movements that were bringing overt pressure for independence around the globe. War-torn Europe would provide part of the answer to America's need to export investment capital and goods. But territories newly released from political power of rival imperialisms would offer practically virgin fields. A fabulous growth in American monopoly capitalism occurred during the first 40 years of the present century. United States foreign investment vied with those of Europe, overtook and surpassed them. In 1900, American private foreign investment were small by comparison with Europe's, 500 million, to Britain's 12,000 million, and France's 600 million. By 1930, the growth rate of America's foreign investment had already overleaped those of Britain, standing at 17,000 million, against the latter 19,000 million, and way ahead of France's 7,000 million. America's foreign investment position was supreme by 1949, 19,000 million against Britain's 12,000 million, the level at which it opened the century. France's level sunk to 2,000 million. First World War eliminated Germany's foreign investments and reduced those of France. The Second World War eliminated Germany, Italy, and Japan. The American government, moreover, had added 14,000 million to its monopolist 19,000 million of private foreign investment. The government loans are political loans rather than direct profit-making investment, but they enhance the position of United States finance capital by providing markets for surplus goods by increasing profits of private American investors in the borrowing countries. Unquote. See American Imperialism, Perlow, pages 28 to 29. The Second World War gave explosive momentum to American capitalism and helped it to increase its overseas investment and exports of manufactured goods to the colonial preserves of European and Japanese imperialism. In the decade 1938 to 48, America's share of the imports into these territories rose from 11% to 25%. Her African trade in the period went from 150 million to 1,200 million, at which figure it represented almost 15% of all African foreign trade. America's monopoly's appetite was whetted by the income of 18,000 million, by which it had profited from its foreign investment in the period 1920 to 48. Prospects in 1948 looked even richer, and proved so. Between 1950 and 1959, private American firms invested 4,500 million in the developing countries and made 3 times as much. Net profits came to 8,300 million, to which can be added millions of dollars in trading profits, interest on loans, freight charges, and other ancillary operations. All of this was helped along by Marshall Aid, the Economic Cooperation Administration, born out of the marriage between the American state and monopoly. The dollar was brandished as the universal cure-me-quick for Europe, bringing fat super profits to its American owners. In the confusion and devastation left by war, they were to slip unobtrusively into the cozy corners from which the European imperialists would be edged out both from Europe and its territories overseas. American financial and industrial capital used the opportunity which Europe's post war weakness offered to draw upon its resources. It fed on war ruined Europe, though not to the same degree as Western imperialism exploited the colonies and semi colonial world. The powerful German metallurgical and chemical trusts, Vereinigkeit Stahlwerk and IG Farben, were broken down. The West German state, established in 1949, came under a military occupation that controlled its foreign trade, its foreign policy and defense. Of the factories which had escaped wartime destruction, some were dismantled. Many of Germany's best scientists and technicians were lured to America and Britain. The secrets and patents of large trusts were appropriated. The archives of the most important bank, the Deutsche Bank, were turned over to occupying forces by Dr. Hermann J. Abs, Hitler's despoiler of Yugoslavia, who was saved from the death to which he was condemned first by the British and then by the American military authorities. Germany was being made safe for the democracy of its imperialist conquerors. The Marshall Plan was used to push American imperialist penetrations into the fragmented German industries and financial institutions, into which it bought heavily. Large sums were also handed out to French and Belgian mining concerns in order to tighten the links with American capitalism and support its domination. An eye also had to be kept on the socialism that was advancing in Europe and Asia. Before the opening of the 1950s, the Cold War began to heat up. It was felt that the threat of heavy German competition, which had inspired the limitations put upon it by victorious imperialisms, could be cushioned by drawing Germany into Western strategy and by greater participations from United States capital. Germany's position in the metallurgical and chemical fields began to change as that country was drawn into the overall pattern of Western defense. More energetic exploration for metal and mineral resources was undertaken in Africa and elsewhere. Africa's raw materials are an important consideration in the military buildup of the NATO countries, in which are included those of the European Common Market. Their industries, especially the strategic and nuclear factories, depend largely upon the primary materials that come from less developed countries. Post-war Europe sustained a precarious shortage of basic supplies for its steel manufacturers. Belgium needed more rich ores. Sweden, more coal and coke, which America supplied in return for fine ores. Britain lacked pig iron and scrap. Her coke was short and inferior. Both France and Germany had fallen behind in coke supplies. Need that coke, chat. Production of Lorraine coal was declining because of lack of equipment. German coal because the Ruhr was producing less. Investment in industries with high value production, that is, the mineral transformation and heavy industries, while providing the opportunity to influence the European economies and hence their policies towards the United States' ideological domination, did not give the same scope for the quicker and larger profits that production of primary products in the emergent countries offered. The four The Point Four program supported the Marshall Planners for opening up Africa to the United States capital and its European associates. Before the Second World War, only 3% of America's foreign investments were in Africa, and less than 5% of the continent's trade was with the United States. Firestone interests in Liberian rubber and small participations in South African and Rhodesian mines accounted for most of the $200 million invested in Africa. As the war pushed into this continent, military bases and trade connections were established by the Americans, from which they pursued their greater penetrations after the end of the war. ECA, Marshall Plan, funds finance American exploration groups, sent in the best colonial tradition to prepare the way for mining companies and military expeditions. It was announced by ECA in July 1949 that American experts with Marshall Plan aid are probing Africa from the Atlas Mountains to the Cape of Good. For the Cape of Good Hope for agricultural and mineral wealth. And later on, that opportunities for American capital participation, were disclosed in French North African lead mining, French Cameroon tin mining, French Congo lead zinc mining, unquote. An ECA loan to the mines de Dildagia, a French concern under the aegis of the Paniero Company, the fourth largest zinc and lead producer in the world, enabled Newmont Mining Corporation, an American mining and crude oil concern with 30% of its interest in South Africa and Canada, to buy into the company and manage its operations. An American mining and crude oil concern with 30% of its interest in South Africa and Canada. Europe's post-war instability was turned to United States account in the new division of Africa. In the fall of 1949, after America had forced currency devaluation upon the European countries, a committee of leading British and American bankers was formed to push U.S. investments in Africa and other parts of the still remaining British Empire. A similar committee with similar purpose was established 2 months later between American bankers and those of France. Literally just taking over the empire. The hand of these establishments is seen today all over Africa, and the consortia that are fast laying a grip on the continent's riches. Rockefeller, Morgan, Conloeb, and Dillon Reed institutions. The big British banks, Barclays, Lloyd, Westminster, Provincial, and investment houses pivoted around Hambros, Rothschild, Philip Hill, and French banks, Banque de Paris et de Pays-Bas, Banque de la Union Parisienne, Banque de l'Indochine, France, Union European Industrial, Banques Worms, and Credit Lyonnais, Lazard Ferrier, etc., and the leading German and Italian banks. That was fun. These and their associates are the financial institutions that dominate the monetary and fiscal sectors of many of the newly independent states. They support the new industrial revolution of automation, electronics, and nuclear and space development, in which America plays the lead and which has swept U.S. imperialism to its present ascendancy. American groups dominant in the mining and ore processing and finishing industries are involved directly or through their bankers and financial houses in ventures with leading European producers and their financial backers. the finance capitalists who control the leading corporations in the extractive, metallurgical, chemical, nuclear, and space industries of the West are to be seen stretching out across the seven seas and taking command of the sources of primary materials in Asia, Oceania, Australia, New Zealand, Central and South America, and Africa. U.S. investments in Canada in 1962 went up by nearly $700 million, mostly for developing iron ore properties. In addition, $270 million invested in other developed countries went mainly to Australia and Japan. Latin America investments of United States capital increased by $250 million in 1962. In the previous year, the increase was over $400 million. The U.S. Department of Commerce reported that private American investments and assets overseas reached $60,000 million at the end of 1962 and advanced a further $3,000 million in the first 6 months of 1963. Private investors in the United States added $4,300 million in 1962 to their holdings of assets and investments abroad. Direct private American investment in Africa increased between 1945 and 58, from $110 million to $789 million, most of it drawn from profits. Of the increase of $679 million, actual new money invested during the period was only $149 million. United States profits from these investments, including reinvestment of surpluses, being estimated at $704 million. As a result, African countries sustained losses of $555 million. If allowances are made for grants for non-military purposes, estimated then by U.S. Congress at $136 million, Africa's net total losses still reach $419 million. Official American statistics put the gross profits made by U.S. monopolies in Africa between 1946 and 59 at $1,234 million, though other estimates place them at $1,500 million. Which way they are looked at, it requires no great mathematical mind to make out from these figures the almost 100% profitability on investment in Africa. In case you wonder why they want to hold on to Africa as a neocolonial territory, why neocolonialism is so compelling. Again, Africa is the source of the super profits for the imperialist system as a whole. And this is how places like this is where liberals get confused. This is how places like Denmark and other Nordic countries can actively participate and be friendly partners in imperialism, where all liberals can pat themselves on the back and say, the Nordic countries aren't imperialist. They're socialist, actually. And Bernie Sanders goes, oh yeah, that's the kind of socialism we want. Imperial and socialism. And the fucking US students and leftists, quote unquote, eat it the fuck up. And don't even bat an eye when you try to explain to them that Bernie Sanders is no less genocidal, no less imperialist, and no less colonial than anybody else in there. What, he wants to spread the crumbs of imperialism a little more fairly among mostly the settler population? Okay, I guess fight for that, but at least be honest that that's why you're voting for him, you know? Don't try and make up lies about you think that he's going to bring about socialism or something. And this is the thing that we have to try and move our well-meaning liberals away from, right? Not to vote shame them. Not to vote shame them, but to simply point out that Bernie Sanders and the NDP party here, for example, is a means to try and placate the settlers, try and keep them from demanding real fundamental change. My government is super socialist. Wait, where are you in? Are you in a Nordic country, Redisby? Hey, Kay. What do you? I was a well-meaning lib. Now I know. See, you educated yourself. That's all we want. Sweden. Oh, you're in Sweden also? Okay, cool. Yeah. So, I mean, you know what? I'm in one of those countries too where I'm in those one of those countries too where Americans like to claim that we have socialism here, right? Oh, I guess I didn't share the thing yesterday. This made some people mad, I bet. I showed you the Jagmeet Sin tweet from the other day. How am I following him? Okay. I don't know why I'm following him or when that would happen. He did this one. He did this one the other day. On Holodomor Memorial Day. I didn't even know that was a fucking day. Is that a thing? That's really a thing. Holodomor Memorial Day. Did did he just make this day up? Or what? Oh shit. Welcome in, Raiders. Hi, Dan Simpson. Fancy's been a long time, Dan. It's been far too long. Can't remember the last time I heard from you. Welcome in, Dan. It's been a minute. Yeah, yeah. At least several hours. And in another several hours, I will be again on I Damn Simpson show. Hopefully, if you'll have me on, talking about the Communist Manifesto in the morning. Commie Manifesto tomorrow. Oh yeah, yeah. I'll have lots to say. I got lots to say on the Communist Manifesto. So hopefully you'll have me on for that. Also tomorrow at about 1 o'clock my time, chat. Don't forget that I'm gonna be on the Decolonized Buffalo podcast as well. That is gonna be about 1 o'clock Atlantic time, pirate time. 1 o'clock boat time. That is 1 hour after Eastern Standard Time. So that's noon time Eastern Standard Time, or if you're on pirate time like me, you're looking at 1 o'clock. Am I in Buffalo? No, I'm not in Buffalo. I'm much further east. I'm Sebs was just doing that. Lots of Buffalo talk today, yeah. Rick, where do people listen to that? They're wondering. I mean, maybe we'll see what we can do. Hey Pinko, welcome comrade. Great to see you here. You have a strong Buffalo branch. Oh yeah, no. I'm up here in Canada, Pinko. I'm in fucking what's called Nova Scotia. That's why I say I'm on pirate time. I'm on that Atlantic Standard Time. People can watch it on Spotify. There you go. Listening on your TV. I always feel honored when people put me on their TV. I don't know. Feels good. Okay, Kay. Thank you for looking. YouTube. It'll be on YouTube as well. Yes. I'll be on Decolonized Buffalo, referring to the animal, right? Right, Rick? I can only assume that you're referring to the animal because someone asked me last night to pick a color in an animal, and they were surprised when I said ochre brown squirrel. Oh God, you're trying. Well, I knew you meant buffalo, so you didn't actually have to answer that. Yeah, look at this though. This is our Labor Party. This is our socialist. This is our labor quote unquote leader here. This is the party that every single union in Canada is officially subordinated to. You're Comanche. I'm Mi'kmaq. Nice to meet you. I've known I've actually followed myself and Rick have actually been in the same group chat for a very, very long time. Not quite as long as I've known Falcon, but I have been in a group chat with Rick for a very long time. Surprisingly, I'm only now just getting to appear on the podcast because I'm scattered and all over the place. But I'm happy we're finally getting it done, Rick. Recently found a streamer who's been teaching bad words in Mi'kmaq. What? Who was that streamer? That's kind of funny. There you go. There you go. Sam, look, Sam is on it all the time. She's in a stream team with Lost Sue. Oh, and she's in Four Corners? Nice, nice. I'll have to check that out for sure. Yeah, you met Red Falcon with Plants Phenon. See, I'm so far away. Like I wish I have known Falcon for I would say like right around 10 years now. I have been talking to Falcon. It's a shame. We haven't met. Falcon, by the way, is going to be on the stream on Sunday. This Sunday coming up. You live in California. Oh shit. Yeah, That's why you have such a different time zone than me. You were like 8 in the morning. I was like, I can do 8 in the morning. Then 1 o'clock my time. I was like, oh, that's even easier. I can definitely do 1 o'clock my time. I'm that weird, and again, I'm the weird pirate time. Hey, thanks for that raid, Dan. Very much appreciate that. Did we give Dan the shout out? I'm assuming we did. Make sure that you're following Dan. What time is Falcon coming on Sunday? He said somewhere. Where did he say it? I'll have to look. I'll have to look and see here. Mentioned it somewhere. I think like right around noon, probably my time or something. Around noon or 1 o'clock my time. I would expect him to. But yeah, this is our labor. This is our labor party here, chat. I didn't even know this was a day. I think Jangmeet Singh is just making this day up. On Holodomor Memorial Day. It's not a fucking day. Come on. Don't lie to me. Lie to me and tell me that's a fucking day, because I know it's not. Absolutely acidine. So, by the way, we're all, much like Dan does in the morning, we are reading right now a book of our own. Neocolonialism by Kwame Nkrumah. the last stage of imperialism. We're just getting near the end of this. And then we're going to be watching. We missed out on some Gerald Horne videos, so we're going to be watching some Gerald Horne here in just a minute. And then we're going to do the candy for the day. And then I'm going to play I'm going to do rental replays, which is me playing through, well, oh shit. I suck. This is say rental replays is going through all the games I played as a kid, starting with the NES, which is the one we're on now, and sort of just going through them in some sort of rough chronological order. That's at the end of the politics. And by the way, yeah, we do have an awesome Discord, as Bup just mentioned, that you should all consider joining. We're called the Red Star Vanguard, fantastic community of communists where you can learn to find people to play games with. You can get technical help for your computer builds in there. There's lots of other fantastic things in there. You know, the usual channels, the food, and all that as well. You can also leave me content suggestions. And tonight, we are going to be watching season 1 of the Trailer Park Boys. So make sure that you are in our Discord if you want to watch some Trailer Park Boys tonight. When is Command and Conquer Day? Pinko, dude, comrade, people play Command and Conquer in there all the time. I know for sure Z does. I bet. Get on, if there's a, isn't there a Command and Conquer channel still? Just wait. I think there is. If there's not, just post in the strategy games one. But I know Z at least plays. Z will play Red Alert with you. Yep. I'm pretty confident Z would play Red Alert with you, Pinko. You can't let it go. Yeah, that's all right. We have a channel in the Discord called "Looking for People to Play Games With," or just the Pizza Arcade Chat. It's called. Just go in Pizza Arcade Chat and be like, "Hey, anyone wanna play a game with me? Red Alert. I'm willing to bet someone will." Oh, nice. Yeah. The comrades do play another game in there, Pinko, that is sort of like Red Alert in some ways. It's called Red Dragon, and you can be all sorts of communist countries. So yeah, we like playing that one as well. That one gets a tournament every once in a while. We just ask when you come into our Discord, you'll see that in the introduction channel, 5 questions will appear. Just ask you that you answer those 5 questions, and then you can join the Discord. Okay? So just answer 5 questions. Tell them you're from my chat, and I can add you to a tag to let you know when I go live. And then if you check out the events that we have, you'll see that we have you check out our events that we have going on, you'll see we have Trailer Park Boys coming up tonight. And in order to get there, you're going to have to opt in. We have an after hours area, and if you're 18 plus and you want to watch Trailer Park Boys, make sure you opt in. Just say, I'm 18 plus. I would like to opt into the Trailer Park Boys area, or just I would like to opt in, and we can get you in there. Right? There you go. That's how you can watch. That's going to be starting at 10 o'clock p.m. my time tonight. So 9 o'clock Eastern. Be watching the Trailer Park. Right. There you go. Join our fantastic Discord. We hang out. Oh yeah, we also play Halo at night as well. We play, I don't know how many people in here play I don't know how many people in here play Halo Infinite, but we play Halo Infinite almost every night. So if you want to get in on some Halo Infinite, it's free. Just let me know too. If you're joining up on the Discord and you want to get in on Halo Infinite, Just say, hey, I'm here also to play Halo in your introduction, or let them know somewhere, and I can add you to the Halo tag too, and let you know when we're gonna play Halo. I feel like Pinko needs to be added to the strategy games tag, which I'll do later. Yeah, join Red Star Vanguard. It's great. We Halo a lot, and we have a lot of fun. Don't listen to Jagmeet Singh. Don't. The NDP is a reactionary party that uses revolutionary or left sounding language. Well, there is lots of RTS, Pinko. The one, like I say, they do play. I know that some people do play Red Alert 2 in there, but there is another one they play called Red Dragon. It's a pretty cool game that they play. You ask about it in chat. Ask to see about it, and you'll be like, this is cool RTS. All right, let's finish our read here so that we can catch up with her Gerald Horn. The avid explorations that have gone on apace in the last 2 or 3 decades for additional reserves of all the metals and minerals that are important for modern industrial supremacy have been instigated by the drive for monopoly, upon which supremacy and its super profits rest. A recent example makes the principle clear. Alcan Industries, a British associate of Alcoa, Aluminum Company of America, through Alcan Aluminum Limited of Canada, according to a Sunday Times headline, issue 18 of October 1964, wrapped up the last of the foil. That is, Alcan Industries paid $6 million to take over the last independent firm, Fisher's Foils, in British aluminum foil making, having already swallowed most of the rest. This was done, it is said, to bring about rationalization, but in boardroom talk it has another meaning: sewing up the industry. Part of the objective of gaining control of industries and newfound raw material sources is to deprive rivals of their use. The manipulation of artificial scarcity is another of monopoly's tactics, maintaining profits. For 3 years until mid 1964, the big copper companies were running production at between 80 and 85% of capacity to keep up prices. Steel production, too, was held back at something like 80% of capacity. Exploitation under imperialism does not, nor will, always follow upon the finding of new sources of raw materials. Whoever monopolizes the major sources of supply controls output by having the decisive voice in what deposits shall or shall not be worked, and to what degree. Monopoly allows the monopolists to manipulate the economies of other countries in their interest. In the case of bauxite, for instance, Mellon dominated Alcoa, is sovereign, and has drawn into its orbit the other major producers, Kaiser and Reynolds. Because of the tremendous cost of building power plants, upon which the conversion of bauxite into alumina depends, the exploitation of all known reserves of this ore by private capital would defeat the prime incentive of monopoly: profit. For the superabundant production that would result would depress prices. West Africa is exceptionally rich in bauxite, but the individual countries are not equally favored with the power to develop resources. Ghana is providing hydroelectric power, which could be used to convert alumina in both Ghana and Guinea. This would be a welcome cooperative effort within the framework of a united continental economy. Another weapon that is held over the heads of the primary producing countries is the threat of using synthetic alternatives and the replacement of traditional metals by others. Synthetic diamond plants have been established by De Beers, world's monopolist in natural diamonds, by the Belgian company Miba, which controls Congo's natural diamonds, the largest supplier in Africa, by General Electric Corporation in the US, and by Japan. The price of copper was held down by the main producers on the London metal market at a period of recession in its marketing because of the likely use of aluminum in place for certain purposes, while plastics, on the other hand, are frequently proposed as an alternative to aluminum. Vast sums are expended in the research for new materials and in scientific invention of labor-saving machinery and equipment. Thus, metals are being threatened with substitution, are at the same time being developed for a wider variety of finished goods. Such research projects, and the resultant re-equipment of factories and industries, which must be done if the original investment is to be justified, calls for tremendous capital sums, which frequently can only be met from the assets of financial and insurance establishments. Consequently, banks and insurance companies dominate industrial finance and exercise a leading role in the push for monopolist ascendancy. The banks and insurance companies have been foremost in the process that has brought monopoly to its present peak. And it is their financial power that supports the increasing movement towards greater and greater concentration of monopoly. Today, competition in the thrust to secure and hold monopoly over whole industries and sources of raw materials has intensified to the point where mergers are taking place at a dizzy rate. The struggle is grimly tense, and the ding-dong battle for domination, a truce is arranged at critical points. Hey, Dan likes that word, ding-dong. But which influence is divided with mutual consent. Harmony, however, is more apparent than real. The struggle for redivision is proceeding all the time, and the changes that take place within the combining organizations are observed to be more and more frequent. Hi, Rylan. Present-day monopoly is highly variegated and spread out. While it draws its strength from the monopolistic position, it is, on the other hand, seriously exposed to the dangers that face a multiple organism that stretches its limbs to extremity in different directions. A fracture at any one point can lead to a disjunction, which may unbalance the structure. And the monopoly's rivals are always on the alert to spot its most exposed parts in order to deliver a blow that will enable the most relentless competitor to insinuate into the broken organ. Hence, monopoly, having passed through the stages of cartelization, combine, trust, and syndicate, are today more and more making use of a further protective safeguard. That is the consortium, through which it aims at immobilizing the rivals, disarming the associates who are permitted to join this most ravishing of imperialist contrivances. Usually, in a consortium, there is a dominant party, either directly or through and with affiliates and associates, which enables it to exert the largest influence upon the affairs of the consortium. Furthermore, Each of the parties to the consortium will have its own string of appendages, or even a principal standing outside the consortium. All continue the fight outside, while those within exercise their efforts to enlarge the importance of their share of the group activities. For example, as a monopoly, it will be in control of a complex of companies connected at many levels with the production of primary materials. Their processing from the original state right through all the stages of transformation into a variety of semi-finished and finished goods, from the most ordinary article to the most complicated and delicate equipment and heavy plant and machinery. The monopoly does not restrict itself to a single raw material, though it will be preeminent in one or two. It does not restrict itself to any particular department or manufacturer of enterprise that may be ancillarily to its basic activities, though here again it may specialize in certain lines. Many monopolies branch into real estate and land development projects, as construction and contracting work bring quick and high returns and high rents. This form of capital investment is growing rapidly in the present era of enlarging industrialization and the growth of new towns, and extends to large-scale agriculture. In Africa, the consortium is making the most sinister penetrations. It extends from the monopolistic amalgamations of American and European finance capital, particularly those combined within the European Common Market, where financial consortia have been set up as the most effective means of profiting from competitive struggle that is spiraling within this so-called unifying organism. So-called unifying organization, not organism, although an organization can be thought of as something like an organism, I guess. The prime objective is to monopolize Africa's sources of raw materials, not as it is claimed to assist African countries to develop their economies. For the materials are carried off largely in their raw state, or as concentrates, to enhance their productive output of the imperialist countries and to be returned to them in the form of heavy equipment for extractive industry and the infrastructure for carrying the resources away. It is out of that revenue from the trade in these materials that the African countries look to amass part of the capital that will make it possible for them to utilize these same commodities in the service of their own development. Paradoxically, however, these precious counters in Africa's future.
One motherfucker for all motherfuckers everywhere. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, thank you so much, Rylan, for the gift sub for Pinko the Bear. Perfect recipient for that gift subby. Thank you, comrade. Let's see those Juche Gang emotes, please, everybody, as is, the revolutionary tradition here on our home for the Juche Gang. Thank you so much. Appreciate that support, comrade. It's a ton. Paradoxically, however, these precious counters in Africa's future are meantime being used to widen the economic gap between her and the highly industrialized countries, which are hurriedly exploiting the opportunity to make good deficiencies of their economies. Since those who are carrying on the exploitation are also the monopolists who manipulate the markets for primary products at the one end, and the price for the final project at the other, the countries of origin must be pinned down to a long wait before they can tackle on a large scale of capital problem facing all the developing countries of seriously raising the standard of life of their people. If they make no effort to guard their resources in a more practical and self-supporting manner, or guard their resources, I guess, just to dole it out. That makes sense as well. self-supporting manner, this is the answer of those pious economists who assure us that what matters is not what is taken out of our lands, but what is left behind. Nothing. Yeah, I like seeing those Juche gang emotes, chat. Thank you, comrades, rather. Trying to train. Look, the way I'm trying to also train you, comrades, to always use the Juche gang emote when somebody comes in, when somebody resubscribes or whatever. You also have to train me to say, instead of chat, please train me to say comrades instead. Late is better than never, GMO. The reply has been given by the Commission for Aid and Development of the OECD in its estimate that if the industrial countries continue to increase their gross national product by 3% per annum, it will take the less developed countries 200 years at least to catch up with their standard of living, assuming that the unindustrialized nations reach an annual increase of 5%. Yet, how problematical the achievement of this 5% remains in light of the drain on resources from the less developed countries to the highly developed ones. In most African countries, the rate of rise in the domestic product has barely kept a pace with the rate of population growth of 2.5 to 3%. It is the less developed countries that continue to carry the burden of the increasing development of the highly developed. Firestone, for example, has taken $160 million worth of rubber out of Liberia in the past quarter century. In return, the Liberian government has received a paltry $8 million. The average net profit made by this American company is 3 times the entire Liberian revenue. Three times the entire Liberian revenue. You thought trickle down economics was bad from on the level of employer to employer. Well, on the level of exploiter nation to exploited nation, it's even fucking worse, as you can see. From south to north, financial and industrial consortia have spread across Africa, busily staking out claims to mineral, metal, and fuel resources, to forest and land produce, and erecting extractive and primary conversion industries in which they are entrenched as staunchest. In Algeria, for example, the really big investment stampede coincided with the War of National Liberation. Between 1951 and 55, there was an inrush of French and French-American investment greater than ever before. Win or lose, the financial and industrial interests were entrenching themselves within the Algerian economy. Throughout Africa, the industrial giants are supported by financial institutions, which dominate the monetary and fiscal sectors of so many of the independent states. Most heavily engaged are the mammoth banking and insurance institutions and the multi-millionaire companies they control, bolstered by the international institutions like the World Bank and its affiliates. These formidable alliances radiate from the United States, Britain, Germany, France, Holland, Italy, Sweden, and they move around the metallurgical and chemical combines with the ECSC, European Coal and Steel Community, such as SOLAC, GIS, Cytalor, Unisor, Krupp, Thyssen Coleman, Purilat, Furbawak, Horst, Bayer, BASF, ICI. They were in the assemblages of bankers, such as Consafrique, Consortium Européen pour le Développement des Ressources Naturelles d'Afrique. Situated at the same address as the International Bank in Luxembourg. Eurofin, Compagnie Bancaire, Finicider, Coffermer, Union Européenne Industrielle de Financière, and others. Powerful American corporations like Bethlehem Steel, United States Steel, Republic Steel, Armco Steel, Newmount Mining, Johns Manville, Union Carbide, Olin Matheson, Alcoa, Kaiser, crop up among all the post-war primary materials producing projects on this continent. Their alliances are spread among the leading metallurgical and financial companies of Europe in combinations that mask the underlying competition. This competitiveness erupts to the surface when circumstances cause a breakdown in the facade of peaceful coexistence between rival imperialists operating in the sovereign states of others, to which they make assumptions of power and use as pawns in the struggle for monopolistic supremacy. Gabon is a vocal testimony to these assertions. Mass discontent with the existing regime, which led to the disorders of February 1964, was the occasion utilized by France to warn the United States that she would brook no encroachment on the claims she lays to the manganese, uranium, and oil riches of this, her former colony. Neglected under the colonial regime, these resources have assumed inestimable value to France in the struggle against the advance of American imperialism in Europe, in the new epoch of atomic rivalry. France sent in paratroopers to force the issue of whose pawn Gabon would remain. United States Steel may have been the dominant participation in Homologue de Logie, which is working on the bed of vastly rich Frankville manganese deposits. But France, through the C de Mines de Uranium de Franceville, controls the uranium fields at Monana and is urgently occupied in the attempt to foil the aspirations of American oil barons to undisputed access to Gabon's offshore petroleum reaches. Great, because this is good for explaining how these companies now compete with each other. Instead of in a world global economic scale, they now compete through these other financial means with each other. That sometimes breaks out into force and complete disagreements of them assuming pawns within the societies that they operate within. Yeah, Pinko, that's an old school term. I mean, this was written in 1965 after all. So, next time we read, we will be on chapter 5 here, chat. Comrades, god damn it. Stop. Not chat, you're the comrades. Okay, so Thursday, we're going to be reading this one right here. Neocolonialism, The Truth Behind the Headlines, Chapter 5. Where we will be reading from tomorrow. So if you want to catch up so that you're reading along, Chapter 5 right here. Even when I'm offline, you can come into my channel, type exclamation mark and reading, and then you'll get a link to whatever we're reading at that time. Pretty awesome, yeah? They don't ever want to know who made it go boom boom, technically. Although, we all can imagine. Hot tub. That command doesn't exist yet. We're gonna need a lot more subscribers for the hot tub stream. And it won't be a hot tub stream, it'll be a bath time stream. And I need like about another 300 subscribers or so, and then we'll do that. Alright, let's switch it back to the agitprop now. So, good way that I'm gonna start doing my other thing now. So I'm gonna play my little video in between segments now. So that way when I go to cut this up later, it's much easier to find where I am.
Do you tire of listening to reactionary drivel every time you turn on your television? Do you want to learn about communism in a fun and interactive way instead? Then come down to Leaping Larry's. When you come down to Leaping Larry's, you will be greeted with a salute every time you step in through the door, because we value our comrades. At Leaping Larry's, you will learn how communism and the Juche idea can create a more equitable and just society. You will learn about the importance of collectivism and cooperation. And you will learn how communism can help to create a world without poverty or hunger. Leaping Larry's, your home for communist and video game edutainment.